Hey everyone, it's Rob at Mr. Robot Shop. In this box, I believe I have a VIC-20, but not an old VIC-20 from the 80s, a new one that was made by, I believe, Commodore USA. I think it was a company that kind of took over the Commodore name for a short period of time and then went bankrupt or defunct or whatever. I found it on eBay. It was 250 bucks. Probably not worth it because from what I was reading, it was actually a rebranded computer from like Wall E, or I can't remember the name, Wall 300 or something like that. But I always wanted one because I think they released, let me turn my air conditioner off real quick here, makes a lot of noise. I think they re-released something that looked like the Commodore 64. I think they called it an E or an X or something like that. Here, let's go to YouTube here. Oh, I can't because I'm actually uploading my video. But anyways, there were two, I believe there were two models that this company had released. And I always wanted one because, you know, I thought it would be cool to have a computer that, you know, had the Commodore name on it and that they had anything to do with, even though it wasn't the original Commodore company. But, you know, it was just for nostalgia's sake. So, but it was really hard to find any. I've been kind of searching for a couple years. Now, the one that looked like the original Commodore, it seemed like most ones on eBay you had to buy a motherboard. It's almost like it was just a bare bones thing. Very minimal parts that were actually there. There were some from like 600 to 800 that had, like, you know, the CD, DVD drive, whatever, motherboard. It was basically a, you know, you could put Linux on there, Ubuntu, or Windows. But I didn't want to spend that kind of money, so I found this one for $250. It was the VIC version, and I'm like, well, you know, it's not doesn't look like the Commodore, the VIC-20. It doesn't look like the Commodore 64, but at least has the Commodore name on it, has the Commodore logo on the keys, and I believe when you post it, you know, when you turn on the post screen, I believe that the Commodore logo showed up. So I figured for 250 bucks, I get one of the last remaining thing that was made by any type of Commodore entity, and the guy that was selling on eBay actually said that that was the last one he had. I pulled up his user ID and all the things he sold, and he'd sold probably 5 or 6 before this one, and so it does look like, you know, this is probably the last of the bunch. So I figured, yeah, what the heck. So let's get down to it here. Let's open this guy up and see what I have in the box. And what I'm going to do, apparently he put a, I'm going to try to prop this up a little bit. He put in, supposedly it's got a motherboard, power supply, USB ports and everything in there. I think he put a 1 gig chip in there. So the only thing I'm going to have to add is the hard drive. So here it is. It's actually brand new in the original box. You can see this. And it was nice that he packed it in a brown box, that way this one didn't get a label and destroy the original box. So it's called a VIC Slim. So like I said, you see the Commodore logo here and then the buttons. And like I said, it's a rebadged computer by another company, but it's still cool, right? It uses DDR3 memory. SATA hard drive, Intel graphics chip, USB ports, Ethernet, Wi-Fi optional. I don't really quite know what that's going to mean. Probably some card inside you could stick in there. HDMI optional. So apparently there's a HDMI port that's plugged up, I think I saw. So anyways, I'm going to pull this out. It does say it's Windows 7 compatible. I've got a Windows 10 SATA solid state hard drive, and I'm gonna, there's the quick guide, user quick guide. It's got some screws in there, power supply, I told you I have to hook it up, There's a power supply for it. Looks like a little laptop cord. Great wall. So if you look great wall up and all in one, it's essentially going to look just like this guy right here. But you don't get the cool Commodore name or the VIC logo or anything like that. So is it worth 250 bucks? From a computer point of view, probably not. I mean, you could definitely get a lot more for your money spending that kind of money. However, just the fact that you can't get these anymore makes it makes it a little more valuable from that point. So the box is in very nice condition. And like I said, he supposedly put the memory in here. Actually, it has an HDMI port on it. The weird thing is the ones on eBay or some YouTube videos I was watching did not. It's like the HDMI port was just plugged up with a piece of plastic. So you got 3 USB, HDMI. We'll see if it actually works. Ethernet, probably a serial port, which is odd. There's actually a VGA monitor port down in here. And from what I was reading online, that's actually, you can screw that down, and I think this was going to be used for school systems. So when you put your cord in there, you could screw it down, thus making it harder to steal. Power button, headphone, microphone, another USB port. Nothing on this side except the lockdown cable. So there's the memory slot right here, and then the hard drive is going to go in here. So the nice thing about Windows 10, while I don't love the operating system, you can actually have a hard drive with Windows 10 on it and pop it in any computer. Now, it won't necessarily be activated, however, it will still work. Unlike Windows 7 and before, you would get a blue screen. So I'm going to pop this guy off here. So the blue screen just meant that, you know, you really couldn't use the operating system, and they did that so you wouldn't clone it and put it on, you know, 50 other computers. But Windows 10, oddly enough, lets you hook up pretty much any hard drive from any computer into another one, and then it'll start up and everything. So here's, I've got a Kingston HyperX Fury 120 gig solid state with Windows 10 on there. I'm just gonna slide it in here real quick. I don't think, there is a little caddy in there. I should probably pull that out. I think I might need to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to unscrew that before I slide it in, which makes sense, because yeah, I'm not gonna actually put the caddy on just for time's sake here. You don't have to watch me put a bunch of screws into a hard drive. I'll cut this and come back later. Okay, I put the hard drive in and turned it on, and there was no picture. So the guy on the listing said he added 1 gig of RAM in there, but I pulled the cover off the back of the computer here, and there was no memory in there, so that's why it wasn't working. So I stuck a 4 gig chip in there. There's Windows 10 on the Commodore VIC Slim. Oh, I need some kind of mouse here so we can actually use it. Let me grab my wired mouse. I think it's got a USB port on the side here. So we'll see, this USB 3.0 may not work unless it's got the drivers. Let's try the ports on the back real quick. Not getting any mouse activity here. Let's try, maybe my mouse is broken. Okay, so apparently my wired mouse has an issue. Let's go into the system here and see what it tells us. Windows 10 Pro, so it's an Atom 2.13 gigahertz. That's actually pretty good for an Atom processor. There's the 4 gig chip, so it does support a 64-bit version of Windows. Sometimes your Atom processors, I don't always think will do 64-bit, sometimes they're just 32-bit. Let's look at Device Manager here. And apparently it must have built-in wireless, so we'll connect to my router here. Don't look. Yeah, you can't see it anyways. So it looks like all the drivers picked up without a driver disk, which is nice. A little bit on the slow side, I'm not sure what's going on here. So Microsoft, so for the Intel driver we are going to have to download the Intel chipset driver probably. And normally on Windows 10 you can just do that through your settings. Normally Windows 10 will pick up drivers automatically. If not, hopefully there was no disk in here. Intel drivers are easy to get, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's weird though. Oh, I know it's not grabbing an IP address because I'm uploading a big video right now. And on UVerse or DSL, when you upload anything large, it pretty much saturates the UVerse or DSL circuit, thus making it impossible to do anything until the video is done uploading. So anyways, I guess you kind of get the gist of it. It's working. Kind of a neat little computer. I'm gonna restart it just so you can see the splash screen. That's probably one of the main selling points of this, because there's really not much else to it. Not like I'm gonna want to sit around putz around on an Atom computer. And when I say Atom, I mean like ATOM processor, right? Let's see if we can figure out which key gets us into the BIOS setup here. Delete. I mean, I've not got it fast enough. Yeah. But you saw the VIC or the Commodore logo, which again is kind of cool. So I'm going to shut it down again, and then we'll go ahead and end the setup so you can actually see what that looks like. Again, pretty sure it's going to be the same type of setup as the Great Wall computer. Great Wall, I don't know, does that have something to do with China, right? The Great Wall? Probably. Shut down. Alright, so power button again is on the side here. I do like the little power light and the hard drive light on the keyboard. That's a nice feature. You got all your lights in one nice little spot there. So, Aptio setup utility, America Megatrends. There's your audio. I'm not sure what DMI Gen 2 is. I'd have to look that up. I wonder if it has secure boot for like Windows 8. Boot menu. BIOS Write Protect. Boot option. Security. Huh. I don't see secure boot, which isn't a really big deal. Not like you have to have it. But a lot of the newer BIOSes will have, well, you know what, it probably wouldn't have it because it was probably released with Windows 7. IDE mode, SATA, yeah. So I think in my head, this thing to me is brand new because I just got it and it's new in a box, and in my brain I would see a Windows 8 or 10 machine and you'd have secure boot features. But given that this came with Windows 7, that's why we're not seeing any kind of secure boot options, because they didn't have it back then. So anyways, I appreciate you watching the video. If you guys see one of these floating around and you have some extra money, go ahead and buy one. I think it's going to be kind of a collector's item. I believe that the amount that were produced was very low, so you know, if you can get a chance to pick one up, get yourself a Commodore VIC Slim. Make sure to keep the box. You know, probably wouldn't recommend using it a whole lot, because obviously if you spill something on the keyboard, you know, parts or anything like that are going to be pretty much non-existent. And then also, if you can find the Commodore 64, I think they call it an EZ version, or X or EX or something like that, but you'll still see some of those floating around. They're just extremely expensive. So appreciate you watching the video. If you enjoyed it, do a thumbs up. You guys have a good day and take care.